I never failed I failed a class in high school. I failed English, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Which was really funny. I failed English. I did it in a summer school. And then I went on to write articles for a towing magazine.
That makes sense.
I know, right? I wanted to low key like send it to my English teacher from back in the day and be like, meh.
I
You're
failed grade 12 English. I took both my spares and I graduated with 38 credits, which I think is 4 more than what you need to graduate.
I didn't graduate.
Oh.
Fun fact.
Yeah. And you always call me stupids. I graduated college and high school.
I never graduated high school. Yeah, here we both are. So who was the stupid one?
Yeah, we made it far in life, buddy. We made it far.
So far.
So far.
So far, so good.
Don't count your chickens before they hatch, my friend.
Have your chickens hatched?
Yeah, my chickens are like a week old today.
Oh, happy birthday to your chickens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bienvenue à la podcast Vie Remorquage.
They are
suis votre host.
1/8 of their life done.
Je suis votre host, Monsieur PlainGuy. Et cette semaine, je suis ici avec mon co-host, le One Chain Wonder, Monsieur TowManG. Comment ça va, TowManG?
Ça va bien, merci.
Oui, pipi.
Oui, pipi. That's all I know. We are not doing this show in French, so don't worry. Don't click off. The English version will follow.
Hey everyone, I'm Brad from Calgary.
This is Sean from Cambridge, Ontario.
I'm Terry from Cornwall, Ontario.
Hey, this is Larry from Pitt Meadows, British Columbia, and you're listening to the Towing Life podcast.
Okay.
Well, it's 3A, 3B.
Okay.
Do you know how indexing works?
No. I don't know what an index roller is.
An index roller?
Yeah, you know, the big old index cards with the roller. I don't think people use those anymore.
It's not called an index roller. It's called a... there's a name for that thing.
Yeah, it's an index roller with index cards in it.
That's not actually what it's called, though. There's a physical name, I believe, for it, but it is not. It's a Rolodex.
Rolodex. That's it.
That's
index
the word.
Roller. I just call things as they are, okay? What does it do? It rolls index cards around, so it's an index roller. Anywho, welcome to the Towing Life podcast, where the ditches are deep, the trucks are loaded, but the drivers are not. I'm your host, TowManG, and as usual, I'm joined by my co-host, friend, and former co-worker, the man who pretended to die just a second ago, Mr. PlainGuy.
What is going on, G? What is going on?
Oh, I'm just trying to come up with different ways to either impress, disappoint, or upset you.
Well, I can assure you, you have done all of those things in a short period of time. So for that, I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. Those are goals that are easily met, well, except the first one.
Impressing me?
Yeah.
You impressed me a lot for about a day after I met you. Mm-hmm. And it's been downhill since then.
Yep.
Your
First
ambition
impressions are lasting, thankfully.
Yeah, your ambition and want into the industry was something that absolutely stuck with me. And since that day, I'm telling you, it's been full of misery and disappointment.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Same here. I hear you.
So, that being said, welcome to another episode of the Towing Life podcast. Episode 93. Time continues to fly faster and faster and faster and faster, and we get closer and closer and closer to that wonderful episode 100, which we still have not decided what we are going to do special for. We should really get working on that. So this episode's over. We've got planning to do. Okay, bye. Oh, and I thought G took this opportunity to freeze up and try and get out of here, or he did exit the room. But no, either way, like I said, we are back for episode 93. Your internet on my end just can't keep up. Similar to your work ethic, your internet cannot keep up with mine. And for that reason alone, I thank you for being such a wonderful co-host over these 93 episodes, and here's to 93 more.
You're welcome.
Providing one of us doesn't either quit, get out of the industry, or get fed up with each other.
Yeah.
That being said, it's a great time to mention, before we forget, if you have any questions, comments, concerns for the show, how do you find us? It is very easy. You can visit us at www.towinglife.ca. You can email us directly at thetowinglife@gmail.com, or by visiting us on Facebook at the Towing Life Podcast. We always appreciate your comments, questions, concerns, where we got it right, where we got it wrong, and what we need to cover next. So with that being said, we will get to, I do actually have a comment put aside from an email submission that we received this week regarding last week's episode. It's I don't know if it's a jab at TowManG. I don't fully remember what the episode was about, so it's very possible it was either a positive or negative towards you or me. I am not sure.
If you want to take a jab at me, just bloop it down there in the comments on the YouTube. Just go over there. There should be a box, and within a box, I think, and you can just clickety-clack into there.
As always, yes, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment over on YouTube, or just rate and review us on wherever you listen, whether that be Amazon Music, Spotify, Alexa. We're everywhere and anywhere. iHeartRadio. We're all over the States, all over Canada, a little bit of Australia, some German. And
Good beer over there.
What do you know about beer? You don't even drink beer.
I know. I just know they have good beer over there.
Here's the fake TowManG coming out once again.
I know they have good beer over there. I know.
So don't forget as well, if you haven't already, be sure to head over to towinglife.ca/recovery so you can submit your recovery of the month. Next episode 94, we will be announcing the winner for May. You get a chance to win a Canadian $50 Amazon gift card, as well as a spot in our 2024 calendar. We've already announced winners for January, February, March, April. Next up is May. Then there's June, July, August, September, October, November, December. So many chances to win. We can't thank our sponsors enough for helping us with this Recovery of the Month contest. Wonderful people over at Herb's Towing, TowSoft, BakPul, Hitches. Please tell me I'm not forgetting any. I do not have the list of them open right now. If I am, I apologize to all those wonderful people. So again, towinglife.ca/recovery. Get your submission in now for a chance to win. The calendars will be going on sale at the end of 2023. So contest will close September 15th. Let's go with that day. Contest closes September 15th, 2023. It'll give us time to get them out in November and December.
Yeah, that's fair.
So get your submissions in before then, so we will have the winners pre-picked for December, November, December, October.
Watch we go through all this work and we accidentally end up ordering 2023 calendars instead of 2024 calendars.
I'm going to do something dumb like that. I'm going to do something real dumb like that.
Put on the cover 2023, and then when you open it up, it's actually 2024, just to, have like a small April Fool's Day joke in January 1st.
It's not really an April Fool's Day joke when people get them and throw them out because they think they're old calendars.
Yeah.
That's
how we sell more. That's a sell tactic.
How is it a sell tactic? Oh, because they buy them, throw them out, and buy the next one and throw it out.
Maybe I bought last year's. They don't realize we had one this year.
You want to see our email blow up with a bunch of angry people to buy a calendar, only to find out that...
You have to deal with that. I'm fine with it.
Yeah. You're not on any of the social medias or any of the emails.
No.
You just have to read a couple angry YouTube comments.
Yeah. I bought an email. It was the calendar for last year. Well, if you open it up and take a look at it, I think you'd be pleasantly surprised.
So, that being said, there's a topic I wanted to cover this week. And it is something we have thought about, we have had on the back burner for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
Over my towing career, I have seen multiple situations of husband and wives working together, working with your spouse in the industry. Mm-hmm. And up until about a month ago, I think it might be 2 now, I don't remember when it was, I was never one of those people. I always wondered how that would work. I've worked for companies where it worked great.
Mhm.
I've worked for companies where they were in the process of a divorce.
Mm.
So there's always a risk when it comes to mixing business with pleasure, we will call it.
Which one's which?
Good question, my friend. That is a very, very good question. So recently, my wife, Robin, who we've met on an episode, if you listen back, I want to say it was about episode 90, 89, 91, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
I had my wonderful wife on to talk about the towing life and the impacts it had on her. Funny enough, most of her opinions on the towing industry were she hated it.
Very negative. Very sad.
She dealt with it because she supported me and it was something that I was very passionate about, and God bless her for that.
Mm-hmm. Which really blew my socks off when you said that you're going to start working with her.
Absolutely. And so she came in, obviously she didn't come in as an operator and operations or anything like that. She came in on the impound side of things. So she came in to manage an impound. We have a busy enough impound. We have a lot of cars coming in and out. It is a full-time position in its own.
Mm-hmm.
It has been, I got to admit, great. And the funniest part about what I've enjoyed about it, and we'll go into some of the pros and cons of working with your spouse, is that, at the end of the day, it's been a long day. Your wife gets home from work and you ask that mandatory question, I'm going to call it, which is, how was your day? It used to be when she was working in childcare that I would just simply zone out and ask the question and kind of zone out to the answer. Yeah. I could tell you there was the odd kid with some weird name whose mother probably either loved him too much or didn't love him enough, who was a little bit of a hellraiser.
Yeah.
And, hearing stories of getting bit, slapped, things thrown at, hair pulled, kid beating up other kid, all this kind of stuff. It was fun. It was entertaining at times. Mm-hmm. But I honestly, from the bottom of my heart, and it is very mean to say this, I didn't care. I really didn't care. I asked the question simply out of almost requirement. And to show an interest and to be, and I honestly didn't. And I've been called a bad husband. I call myself a bad husband. Yeah. And that was definitely one of my things that probably made that assessment true. Mm-hmm. Where now I actually like to hear what happened that day because it affects me directly. I like to hear about it.
Way to be selfish.
It's 100%. 100%. If I'm nothing but honest on this show, you can call me a lot of things, but honest, you can never call me a liar for that. Right? You can never call me a liar. But it's true. Now I care. Oh, what do you mean this customer came to get that car that we impounded last week and did this, or you know what I mean? A story that we have of this guy. Like, we have a mutual hate for people at times, which is great. Like, we have this customer who has had about half a dozen vehicles in our impound.
Yep, I love the repeating customers like that.
Multiple at a time. And they're always for improper registration, improper plates, whatever it is. And the other day, he shows up at our yard with other people. The one day he rode in with his bike and asked us a bunch of questions and rode his bike away. The other day he shows up with these people and I need to get some information so they can transfer the vehicle into their name because they're buying it. So I need to get into the pound to get the information off the vehicle. I'm guessing he meant odometer because that's one thing the ministry will require is an odometer, because he had an invoice or an ownership signed and a bill of sale. Neither of those in his name. The seller wasn't him and the buyer wasn't him. But the vehicle had sat for so long, it had been released by police, so there was no more release or anything required. So he wanted to come in and buy it. We said, make you a deal. You buy the car. You pay for it to get it out. You can get whatever information you want. Yeah. This is about his 7th visit this month. We're halfway through the month.
Wow.
And so my wife and I have a mutual hate and laughter for this guy. It got to the point where she was in the drive-thru this morning and she said, I hear this obnoxious car behind me in that drive-thru, and I look back and it's him. And so these stories that she shares with me, and yes, it's selfish, I actually care about. We've actually been able to bond and have more caring conversations for the same part, because I also believe that it was the same for her. Now, she is a much nicer person than I. So I don't think it's that she didn't care, but she didn't care, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, she hates towing, so like she's going to be like, "Oh, good for you," or "I'm sorry that you had a bad day," right? But at the end of the
Absolutely.
day, it's towing, and she doesn't really care about it.
Absolutely. Where now her being a part of it as well, she kind of has a better understanding of it.
Yeah.
Right? She's a little more not open to it. Like she doesn't care if how many cars I tow that day or whatever the case may be. But if we run into these funny scenarios where I've had an interaction with a customer and then she's had an interaction with that same customer,
Mm-hmm.
it definitely leads to a bonding type of relationship over something that she didn't feel very strongly about in the first place. So working with her, and we've been lucky in our situation.
Yeah.
Meaning my wife does not work directly under myself.
Yeah.
Like I have no say or control over her position. She obviously has none over mine. And she doesn't have any direct involvement with any of my operators.
Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of a perfect situation. There's so many times there could be, conflicts of interest, right? Like let's say a driver and a dispatcher could be a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
A owner and a dispatcher, not really, because at that point you're an owner.
Yeah.
Managers and dispatchers, like dispatch anywhere where the positions, or manager and operator
Mm-hmm.
could be one. Anywhere where there's that direct HR department, possibly, and an operator, HR, because then you worry. It's like, okay, well, with a dispatcher, we know that dispatchers have favorites. If you are a dispatcher, listen to this, and you don't have a favorite, you're full of shit. I can honestly admit that I have favorites even among my employees.
Yeah.
But the one thing I've always been, cared strongly about is you don't treat anyone differently. I don't care if you're my favorite or not. You get your, you know what I mean? You're held to the same standard. You should see the standard I hold my wife to. I am not her direct supervisor in any way, shape, or form. But I absolutely, one day she took off for lunch and was running late coming back. And I sent her a text going, we taking a ladies' lunch today? Like, are we taking, a little bit of extra time? What's going on? I wasn't greeted very kindly when she returned.
No, I bet not.
But, you got to be fair. So have you, I don't know, actually, I'm not even going to ask you that question because that's asking for you to get a whole lot of trouble. But can you not see, like, you know what I mean? Have you ever seen, other than where you are, because I hate to talk about places that you're at, have you ever seen that where there is some favoritism among couples? Have you ever seen that kind of, like,
Oh, yeah.
how toxic can that be?
Oh, for sure. Like I've worked with a husband-wife driver dispatcher combo. And that has caused issues at the place of business where I've worked previously. And it's came down to, oh well, he's having a nap, so I'm just gonna give this call to you, and you gotta drive right past my house to do that call, and you see a truck in the driveway. Those kinds of situations that make a guy go, that's a little weird, right? I've also ran into situations where, especially on commission-based drivers, oh well, the other driver working that weekend didn't do a single COD call, didn't get any police calls. Okay, where are we going to start tracking these? So
Right.
I don't really think it will be a bad thing as long as there's proper tracking. So like an operating system like TowSoft, my current company is actually starting to look into that now. So that's great. I think it will definitely help with a lot of things, and it would definitely prevent issues where a husband wife dispatcher driver combo could cause problems for themselves and other drivers having a software like that.
100%. TowSoft is great. I do guys have inquired about this before. We do like a monthly driver tracking where they gain points for whether it be certain service calls that nobody likes to do, call volume in a day, whatever it is. And the one thing that I always track is I always track operators via how many calls they did that month.
Yeah. Now,
I also added in to keep track, because it can be a very skewed number, what their tow rate is as well.
Yeah.
It allows me to see that. It allows me to see how many total calls they did and how many tows they did.
Yeah, they could have low number of tows, but a high number of service calls, or vice versa.
And it skews the numbers. So normally I look just straight up at a tow percentage. If that driver did 150 calls and he had a 70% tow rate,
Yeah.
it was pretty steady.
Yeah.
If he did 150 calls and he had a 30% tow rate,
Yeah.
that guy's just running around knocking out boost and unlocks and tire changes all day.
Yeah.
Right. So which would understand why you can't
We
just
should
get
stick
points
him in
for-
a car instead of a tow truck.
Well, that, and it just would make sense that you can't just go, okay, well, this driver got the most amount of calls.
Yeah.
Because drivers are competitive. Right? Operators are very competitive. And I have made that mistake once before. We're sharing that one driver had an excessively high number of calls that month.
Yeah.
And he had a good tow rate too.
Mm.
Well, I'm telling you, his head didn't fit in the door the next day.
Hmm.
He needed a little knockback to reality. Oh, I think I'll take it easy there this month. Let you guys carry your weight around here. I've been my shoulders are getting a little sore. My back's getting a little sore. It's like, whoa.
Take your cape off, bud, and simmer down.
Easy there, feller. Simmer down, feller. And then I've had the same thing where all of a sudden I look up and I go, why is this driver not doing any calls?
Yeah.
Like, what is it? And towing isn't a perfect world that you can just look at these call numbers, right?
Mhm.
Like the one thing that we look at is efficiency.
Yeah.
Meaning I have operators that are very efficient in the shop,
Mhm.
right? Are very good mechanically. So obviously in a perfect world, and because we're not commission-based drivers,
Mhm.
right, during the daytimes and the weekdays, we will, skew that a little bit to, well, if the call volume is low, if we're having a quieter day than normal, I would rather focus my guys who are less efficient in the shop and less productive in the shop into doing calls on the road.
Mhm.
And keeping my guy who's a little more efficient in the shop to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
If you've got a guy that every time you look around, he's sitting down doing nothing.
Yeah.
And I got a guy sitting around that every time I look around, he's fixing a light.
Yeah.
He's taking apart dollies. He's, keeping busy all day. People don't think you see that kind of stuff, right? It's amazing because I've even been one of those operators in that situation. And you really don't think that people see that.
Mhm.
Right? You just and like you take notice subconsciously. You take notice
Mhm.
every time you walk into the shop and you go, he's been sitting there. That's where he was last time I seen him.
Hmm.
And this guy, where's this guy? I don't know. He's underneath that truck doing something. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You don't say anything. You take a note. You go back. You don't. One occurrence, right? It'd be that one time you catch your very productive guy sitting in the chair.
Yeah.
You don't react right away to it, but you take a subconscious note on it and you go,
Well, it's
okay.
also the same guy who's productive is probably also the same guy that you go to. It's like if you get a task that comes in and you're like, I need to get this done. Who's my go-to guy? Well, the guy who normally just sits on his butt all day, which I'm one of those people. Shout out to all you out there. Well, you're not really going to give that task to me because, yeah, it's going to get done, but it might not get done as efficiently or as quickly as you get it to the other guy who's always.
Yeah, but well, it depends what the task is. If the task is rewarding, then absolutely I'll probably give it to that guy.
Yeah.
If the task is one of my, less favorable items,
take the garbage out. Yeah.
Whatever, there's little things. Hey, if it's a simple task that I know you can complete, you're going to get it.
Yep.
Right? Like it's got to be equal along all planes. You cannot just, because I've seen that too many times where because a guy is willing to go above and beyond,
he gets taken advantage of.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And then he no longer wants to go above and beyond because he doesn't feel that he's being respected. He feels that he's, constantly being taken advantage of, and you're not going to do it.
And I think a lot of the issues with that comes down to a commission-based system as well. Like if everything was all the same. So like when we have these conversations, it's all great, but unfortunately some of the stuff that we're saying may not apply to half of you out there if you're on hourly compared to on commission. Right? So like where you're talking about a guy's always in the shop doing stuff and tinkering, which is great. I like to see that. I'd like to see more of that. You can't expect a commission guy to be going out and doing all that because, well, unless you say, okay, if you start working in the shop, we'll give you a shop rate of $20 an hour, right? And you can clock in, clock out from that. That's a good way to keep a guy busy and make a little extra money on the slow days. That's perfect. That's great. But if he's a paid employee, well, it's kind of expected of him to keep himself somewhat busy, even if the call volume isn't there.
But even as a commission driver, if you are invested in the success of your company, you will do those things to go above and beyond.
Yeah.
Right now, hopefully, again, we've talked about that before. Hopefully, ownership management is taking notice, but it just doesn't mean because one day you decided to take out the garbage as a commission driver that you deserve a lollipop and a pat on the back.
Yeah.
Right? You don't. Okay, great. It wasn't your job. I do that once in a while with my wife. I don't get a lollipop and a pat on the back. Right? It's called just being a decent human being.
Right.
And things need to get done within the company. And I truly believe that to sit there and say, why would I do the things when I'm only paid to do calls is a way that you're never going to advance within a company.
Yeah.
Right? Because when it comes time for these tasks, for these important things, for even some of these rewards, you take note of that. Yeah. Right? Like we work together. Who was a guy that always got taken care of for the most part? Right? We both know him. We both know him. Why? Because that man would help anybody, would do anything, and would be the most humble guy about it. And he had zero to gain from it. He did not do it for any preferential treatment. He did not do it for any sort of pat on the back, praise, or promise of future glory.
Yeah.
He just did it because he knew what had to be done and the company needed the help with it. And because of that, I truly believe, although, you know what I mean? Like guys like that can be taken care of. Right? I've seen guys like that. I've got a guy that's been in the business and with the company for a long, long time. I mean, long time. And he is the one guy where he says, he's almost semi-retired at this point. I don't do nights and weekends. Okay. I got to get out of here at 5:00 today. Okay. You know why? Because this guy's been selfless for years.
Yeah.
This guy has been so selfless for many years. He has sacrificed so much for this company over many, over and over and over again. That he's going to be the first guy. And I think as long as the company is building that, and that's the tricky part.
Yeah.
Right. I truly believe, and you hear a lot of stories of operators that go, this place just don't give a shit.
I think we see a lot of that too with like factory workers and everything, where so many employees are just a number, and that's the mentality. And especially if you're like switching industries into this towing industry, a lot of places aren't like that. And of course, we can't speak for every single tow company out there, but I want to say 90% of the time, it's a fairly small knit community of operators that you'll be working with on a day-to-day basis. You're going to know the people that you're working with instead of like being on a factory floor where you just know that one guy smells like curry and you don't know his name, right? That's when you're in the towing industry, it's you got to know your operators. You got to know roughly what their skill levels are, because at the end of the day, you got their back and they got your back, hopefully. And hopefully, same token, you're going to be able to put your faith in the equipment that you're running. Not that, oh, well, if my bench press over here is going to break down, I'll just have to call and wait for maintenance and I'll go for a cigarette break. Right? There's very little of that in the towing industry. So from an outsider looking in, this is more like old school, the way it used to be, like company men back in the 50s and 60s, where they put their life into a company, they get rewarded for it. Where our modern society isn't really like that anymore. And especially the new generation, if you talk to anyone under the age of 28, I want to say, they're like, oh, the man doesn't care about me. The corporations don't care about me. But like if you go and work at McDonald's, they're not really, you're there to flip burgers, you're there to do a job, and that's all they really care about. But when you come into the towing aspect of things, like in the towing industry, you're taking care of people, you're helping them off the side of the road, and you got to be able to do that job efficiently. So a lot of times the companies will invest a little bit of time to get to know you and make you feel at home.
Yeah. No, it's a fair point. It is true, right? Like society has changed as a whole, and I think we've done it to ourselves in a lot of ways. And you're right, you do see a lot more, gearing towards that, number crunching. You're just a number, get your stuff done. I don't think McDonald's is a pretty fair representation, because you're right, Mr. Ronald McDonald doesn't give two shits about you. Yeah. But your shift supervisors, your coworkers that you work on day in, day out, right? I think that applies in all workplaces. For the most part, you have your group of people, right? Yes, there's going to be, the company, the heads up of the company aren't going to personally send you a Christmas card. Agreed.
Yeah.
right? But you still have that structure built within that cares about you, that wants to work with you, that wants to, you know what I mean, help you and see you grow. So let me ask you then, onto the side of commission and where you talk about that you expect, these guys who are on hourly to keep busy because it's part of the expectation being an hourly worker.
Yeah.
When it comes to truck maintenance and everything else, how do you go about that then as commission drivers?
Well, I think it's really hard, and this is something that I wanted to talk about today that we'll touch on briefly, is especially for myself. I'm a younger guy. I've got my own shit going on, and
You're not that young anymore. I'd like you to stop saying that.
okay, well, I'm 25. I still get, when I hold
Okay.
the door open for an older person, he always says young feller. So,
Oh my God, you're 25.
yeah.
I thought you were older than that, G.
No, sorry,
Okay, sorry.
26. I turned 26 this year.
You turned
can't
34 this year. Ugh.
Anyways, I still get called a young feller by the old folks, so I'm still a young feller, okay? Anywho, so I get myself into a rut where it's not a great way of thinking, but it's the way I think, and I can't really help it. I try, anyways. Where come in with the mentality of I get paid to tow ship boxes, and especially for myself currently, I don't live where I work, so I go in and do a 12-hour shift, and I'm sitting in the truck for 12 hours, like I'm stuck
You
there.
don't shit where you eat.
Sorry.
You don't shit where you eat.
Yeah. Anyways, so for myself personally, in that situation, I'm sitting in a truck for 12 hours, right? I don't get to go home if it's slow. I don't get to do the load of laundry where a lot of the on-call guys get that luxury, right? So it starts to make you feel like, oh, well, I did 3 calls yesterday, and you work that out into an hourly, which is a bad thing to do if you're on a commission. And you're like, oh, I drove all the way to work yesterday just to make $50. Stayed there for 12 hours, and that gets a very vicious
Have
cycle.
you actually had that happen?
Oh yeah, big time.
$50 a day?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm not
Ugh.
getting into it. I'm not getting into it.
Nope,
It's
we're
not a
not.
rabbit
That's
hole
fine.
I want to go down. It's not a good
No,
one.
that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, okay.
Yep.
We're good.
So in that mindset, and I'm sure there's other people out there with that kind of mindset, which isn't a good mindset to have. It's like, why should I go above and beyond, right? Why should I? It's the saying of the same people who say not to warm up your car in the winter because it can cause damage. It's the same thing as stretching. Well, you can hurt yourself while stretching before doing a workout. So why would I go and grease and jack up my truck and worse blowing out my shoulder and then I can't work, or whatever the case may be? There's thousands of excuses you can come up with. There's hundreds of excuses I've came up with myself of not to grease the truck today just in case, oh, I've been sitting around for half an hour. Maybe I
Right.
should have just greased that truck as soon as I got back, because now there's probably going to be a call come in as soon as I get the grease gun out.
Oh, that on-call mentality.
Yeah.
On-call work, whether it be towing or other, is 90% mental,
Yeah.
10% physical.
Mm-hmm. And it can drive down on a person, especially like myself. I've been in the industry for 5-6 years. I don't know. It's all a
I
blur.
think we advertised 7, so you've been
Okay.
in 7.
Okay, I've been in it 7 years. So been in it for 7 years. So I'm still fairly new into the industry, unfortunately. With their current turnaround rate, not so much, but 7 years in, and I've had a very variety amount of experience. So for me, the equipment maintenance, it's always on an up and down flow. It's depending on how I'm feeling. And unfortunately, I when I actually so I'm on a ramble here. Anyways, um I greased my whole truck. I think it was yesterday. Like everything. Like got in all the nipples and serviced everything and greased up the wheel lift nice. And I felt good afterwards. And it's a feeling where I don't know, you just feel good. You feel accomplished. You're like, this needed to be done, and I did it. And I know it's like doing your laundry and folding it and putting it away. You get that
It
little,
is true.
yeah,
Yeah.
you get that little, yes, I did something, and you
I'm an
accomplished something.
adult.
I'm an adult. I adulted today,
Yeah.
right? And
Yep.
you got to remember those points and that feeling, and you want to strive to get it again, especially being on a commission based driver. Okay, yeah, I might not get paid for the half hour or the hour I take to grease the doors and handles and everything, but it's going to make my life easier. My wheel grids are going to slide in nicer once I get a nice film of lube on it, and I don't have to listen to of the wheel lift trying to suck in when it's got no grease on it anymore. And I know it's not ideal, but I know a lot of operators do it. And I get it. I see trucks with very little lubricants on them. And I get it. I've been there. But run towards that feeling of accomplishment once it's actually done and say, I accomplished something, regardless if you get rewarded for it or not. Reward yourself with that dopamine hit.
But that's, as much as I encourage that, and whatever it is that you find your excuse, because like I said, there's a million excuses why you wouldn't do it.
Mhm.
So the fact that you found one that helps you be productive towards doing it,
Yep.
but that's, never mind the excuses. At the end of the day, that truck is what provides you with your livelihood,
Yep.
being a commission-based driver.
Mhm.
So the fact that you would go, I don't want to hear that noise of it going in and out, should be, if it's not making noise going in and out, I'm going to make more money with it.
Mhm.
Like those commission rates, if they are set up properly,
Mhm.
should include that. Like, instead of looking at it as, oh, I make set percentage for tow calls that I do, and I
Mhm.
only get paid to do tow calls. No, you are paid a set percentage, and that includes maintaining, cleaning, and organizing your truck.
Mhm.
Right? So whether that be, companies need to make a clear explanation of that.
Yep.
And possibly maybe look at percentage increases. The way labor rate works, you really can't do a percentage increase. These guys that are running at that maximum, I guess they can do it because they're only paying it on busy times.
Yep.
However, as an employee, that is your pride and joy. That is what makes you money.
Mhm.
So to simply say, I'm going to drive the shit out of this thing, which a lot of operators do.
Yeah.
And then here you go fix your broken thing that I just beat up for 2 weeks,
Yep.
and it's never seen a drop of grease in it.
Hmm.
And then you know what? Sit at home while your truck's getting serviced by somebody who's willing to service it,
Mhm.
and make no money.
Yep.
Right? Like you said, there's a million excuses not to do it,
No.
but none of them are any good.
Yeah,
None of
like,
them are.
it for myself personally, it's a lot of mind games, like you were saying. Like it's more mental than it actually is physical,
100%.
and that's something that I got to deal with, and we all have to deal with, and we have to find ways of working around that and being okay with it, I guess. Especially if you're a commission based driver and you've had a couple of slow weeks and you're in a bad mood because your paychecks are a little bit lower than normal, it's hard to find that ambition and actually get out and clean your truck and grease it, even though it's the best time to do it when you're slow, right? Especially if you do get to go home, you do a load of laundry, whatever the case may be, and the truck just sits out there and it's going to keep sitting out there, and it's going to be there when you come out, and you're going to go do your 1 or 2 calls a day, whatever the case may be, wherever you are, right? That's a reality for some people,
But
unfortunately.
as much as we've argued it, and you've definitely been on the pro side of commission based drivers, and even myself on certain points I have been, that attitude alone and that feeling that you get because you've had a quiet 2 weeks
Mhm.
is enough of a reason to argue against it.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That's that lack of stability.
Yep.
That lack of stability, which leads to lack of proper maintenance, lack of proper care, and lack of give a dams,
Yep.
is terrible for not only the company, but for the operator as a whole.
Oh, yeah, big time. I
Right?
think
Like,
if a company actually wanted to take the time and sit down and say, regardless, hourly commission doesn't matter, say, okay, on Mondays, Jim Bob, that's your maintenance day. On Tuesday, Jeff Bob, that's your maintenance day. And if you got 5 operators, boom, each one day of the week, this is your day to do all your greasing and everything and take care of all your stuff. And we'll let you have 2 hours in the shop or however many hours you need. You go through your lights, at least make a list of parts that you might need for the week, right? Especially smaller operations, you don't have a parts guy or a mechanic on call or in the shop, right?
Mhm.
And actually set this up. And when you hire guys, say, okay, your 33% commission or 35, whatever your percentage is that you're coming in, that is for your calls, and with that also comes with the maintenance, right? Or if you are doing the weekly thing, say for every time you grease your truck once a week, we'll give you 25, $50, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Give the
Gee,
guys the incentive.
that's called organization and structure.
Yeah.
And that is what businesses need. And that is a cheap cop out that commission companies take.
hmm
Because if you were able to build organization and structure,
hmm
you would probably be able to find a better system than only paying the guys whenever they're actually doing a tow call.
Oh yeah,
But
big
you
time.
haven't, and you failed in that department, and you've been just so happy coasting by
hmm
that, you know what I mean? If you could manage organization and structure, in my opinion, you wouldn't be managing a fleet of trucks that are running only on commission.
Yep.
The GTA can fight me on that. I don't give a shit what you think. It's the reality.
Oh yeah, like you can definitely see it. Like you look at all the big companies that have grown and you can see them grow. Give them a call.
It's
95% of
organization.
the time they're on hourly and they've got a good structure and they've got benefits or things that entice people to come and work with them and grow with them and actually build and have employees come with them that turn into company men and women,
Yep.
obviously, that want to see the business grow and thrive, because if they're putting their livelihood behind it, obviously I want to see myself succeed, so obviously I want to see the business succeed. Where I think
So
a lot of the commission companies fall short in that aspect.
I 100% agree.
Mhm.
I've never agreed wholeheartedly more with more statements than you made in one time.
Thank you.
That being said, all right, let me ask you this. So
Mhm.
being, and it's my turn to pick your brain, right? Just like you did
Mhm.
about mine with Border Town Towing.
Yep.
When it comes to commission drivers
Yep.
and the fact that you're only going out whenever there's a call and you're only getting paid
Mhm.
whenever there's a call, does it matter if you're late or not? Beginning of the shift, beginning of the day, are start times a required thing? Because the same argument that you make for servicing vehicles can be made for, well, why do I have to be there at 8 a.m.? Because if I'm
Mhm.
not going to get a call, call me when I get a call, and then I'll be there. I know you said your situation is different, being that you live out of area,
Yep.
so you're required to be within the area and available for set
Mhm.
periods of time. But
Yep.
other than that, like, let's throw that, TowManG's wonderful 1 in a million scenarios out the window. From a standard, even not within the company you work for, but just as an industry with an on-call situation like that, do you think it matters? Right? Like,
I've
we used to work at a place that you had to be, standard was we showed up in the morning.
Yep.
But was it really required?
I've I've been on both sides of the coin, like you said. When we worked together, like you said, we did have a requirement to be there. I think it was for 7 a.m.
I don't think it was ever actually a requirement, though. I think it was just something we self-policed ourselves.
Yeah. Anyways, I do like the fact of showing up because then you can hand in paperwork. Um,
Mhm.
but I've ran into that situation before being on commission. I would show up at 7. I was there for 7 o'clock, and I was very rarely a morning person, so I would sleep through like 3 to 6 alarms in the morning, so I was often late. Um, being a commission driver, I didn't really see too much of a problem with that as long as there's adequate coverage for me being late. It turned out that I think it was probably about 80% of the time I wouldn't actually get a call until 8 o'clock in the morning, anyways, which that put into my head my new start time is 8 o'clock. I know 7 o'clock is the time that I'm supposed to be there, but once every 2, 3 weeks, I get a call before 8. So why am I showing up an hour early that I'm not getting paid for a 1 in 30 chance, right? Which is once again a bad mentality to have. But if you're seeing any sort of track with this episode that we're talking about, is it's very easy to get into that negative mindset in the commission because I'm not making any money doing this, or I don't get paid by the hour. So why do I need to show up on time? And it really falls a lot on you as the operator to self-police, or like you're saying, your coworkers to self-police, and, build that and say, we show up at 7 a.m. or we show up at 8 a.m. to start our work and have our morning coffee meeting, right? A lot of companies don't do that anymore. And it's partially due to towing because you never know when the call's going to come in. And I would like to see everyone get together in the morning at a start time to, hand in paperwork, discuss about maybe what happened the day before, being able to learn from everyone. I definitely see a lot of value in that. But being a commission-based operation,
There's no
that
incentive.
yeah, exactly. As long as you have a tow truck with you,
Yeah. And
why
you're
do I
available
need to
to
go
select
to
at
a
reasonable
location?
time. Yeah.
Like, what's the point? Like, I could argue, why would I waste the company's fuel driving to the office or to the shop when I'm just going to get dispatched from my house anyways?
Now, that being said, though, you go over to the hourly side, somewhere where I have a little more experience, there's disadvantages to it too. Right? And let's talk about the late thing. Late as a commission driver, right? We used to run, the one thing that we ran when we worked together was first man in, first man out.
Yeah.
Meaning, if you were the first operator to show up in the morning,
Yeah.
that set the rotation for the day.
Yeah.
And if you watch enough baseball, which I know you haven't, G, a leadoff hitter will always end up with more at bats at the end of a year. Right? Because of the way it goes around in the cycle, you will end up with more. Now we're talking 3, 4, 5-man rotations, maybe at max, compared to a 9-man baseball rotation. But that being said, you always, first guy in, first guy out. If you are late as a commission-based driver, there is, the one thing about commission-based drivers is there's always the opportunity to, I don't want to say the word punish because it's a little aggressive, but to, get revenge.
Yeah.
Or retaliate against the driver who is either giving you issues or is late. You don't have that opportunity or have that same effect on an hourly system. Now, that is where good management, again, and that's where I think the hourly really depends on a strong management system.
Yeah.
Because a driver is always late. We know there's a worker shortage. So, like, are you really going to fire a guy over being 15 minutes late constantly?
Yeah. No.
In the towing industry, where it's hard to find people that are insurance will even look at anything else like that. Yeah, 100%. But what do? You send them home for the day? That doesn't do anything to your other guys. That's actually almost a reward for somebody who's constantly late.
Yeah. Who probably doesn't want to be there in the first place, and it's just a paycheck to them.
Yeah. You'd rather show up at 9 o'clock. So if I say go home for half a day, be like, sweet, I'm going home back to bed. You get this with some of the younger generation, everything else. But so there's not as much ability to have an effect, right? The effect that is put on people has to be done directly through a management way and not through a way of, mess with me. I'll just mess with your paycheck a little bit today. And you're only going to get service calls, no CODs, no MVCs, no good paying calls.
You're only going to get tire changes and dolly tows for the next 2 weeks. Have fun.
I mean, I can still do that. We could still do that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it doesn't have the same effect. Yeah, absolutely. They're still getting paid whatever the agreed upon hourly rate is. So there's not really a discouragement. So again, in my opinion, that's where the hourly side really leans a lot more on structure, organization, and management. Yeah. All things that we've already said that, you know what I mean? Obviously, the commission companies struggle with or can't be bothered with. Right? I think a lot of us just can't be bothered, right? Like, I've worked for owners that they just couldn't be bothered with it. Yeah. Right? The system works. Nothing's broken. You know what I mean? Like, if you piss me off, I'll just take it. I'll give you a couple shitty calls along the way. You'll learn your lesson. If not, the other guys don't care. I can keep giving you shitty calls. Yeah. The other guys are going to love it. Right? Where on the hourly side, it takes just a lot more mental power. It takes a lot more investment from the company. It takes a lot more of those things that I think a lot of companies just either aren't equipped to or don't care to want to learn.
I just want to say that this episode kind of switched over into a hourly versus commission, which is
Yeah,
probably going to be
100%.
somewhere in the title somewhere. Anyways, I think it's pretty easy to take advantage of a company being on the commission side of things, solely for the fact I can show up whenever I want. There's a driver shortage. I'm not
Mhm.
getting fired. I'm not getting let go anytime soon.
Mhm.
Stuff like
Mhm.
that. And I think with an hourly, like you're saying, it takes a lot more upfront setup and structure on the company side of things. But I think down the road, the industry, it has to switch over to hourly at some point, like at the majority of things, if we want to get better and grow as an industry as a whole and bring ourselves to a higher level. That's just,
I agree.
it's got to happen.
I agree. That being said, let's play a fun game. I'm going to switch up the screen here. Oh, that's not what I meant to do. I'm going to play a fun game. We are going to play a quick game of, since we're on the topic, is this driver hourly or commission? And we will let you decide.
That is a commission-based driver.
Okay. What? I was watching, it's a cube truck. This guy didn't block anything. It rolled into his tow truck, bounced around like a son of a gun.
Tow truck
Why
started
do
rolling
you
too.
Why do you say that is a commission driver?
Because I've been in a situation like that before. Dispatch says, oh, we got a cube truck rolled over. I could send out the heavy. Oh, but I was there in my 1 ton or 2 ton when he took the call and said, I'll go take a shot at that first. Right? And it's a good paying call. I'll go to it. I think my truck can do it. I'm going to give it the good old college try.
That I have to agree with you. I truly believe that if that is an hourly operator, he might not have taken as many risks as he did being a commission driver. Like you said, he's sitting there going, ooh, them mid-duty or heavy-duty rates. I am all over that.
Yeah.
Where maybe he should have taken a little bit of time to think and consider the consequences, because all that extra commission, if he is a commission driver, is gone to the damage that he just put into that truck. So I think that is a game that we could play a little bit more regularly, because it's so much out there to find commission or hourly driver, and we give our opinions why. And you guys as a listener, if you want to give your opinion on it, on what you think, is this record driver a commission or an hourly driver, you can decide. Send us an email at thetowinglife@gmail.com. Visit us at www.towinglife.ca,
Bleep, bloop it.
or find us on Facebook at the Towing Life Podcast.
Bleep, bloop
Comment
it down below.
Yeah. Comment down below on YouTube. Before we go, I wanted to get to one last thing, only because I teased it that we would take from a listener. And it was a gentleman by the name of Owen. There we go. I was like, where's his name go?
Hi, Owen.
Owen says, I have a few things to argue, pylons being one. Right, we talked about pylons and the use of them. In my area, people have hit them many times, sending one into me and my customer's car, and a second one into my truck door of the flatbed. I use the Night Beam Road Commander triangles. I've actually just gotten a set of these recently.
Mm-hmm.
And he says they are brighter and harder to hit. I don't know if the harder to hit is part of their marketing strategy. I don't think they throw that in the air. Unlike you, these lights are real hard to hit.
Yeah.
But I do get what you're saying. They're not as big and bulky as pylons. They take up less space. In theory, they should be harder to hit. As for the easy way out, nah, I carry every tool, no car left behind. I have jacked up cars to get wood under and impress the customer rather than send another truck. I started in a flatbed 4 years ago, and I've been in a wrecker for a year. No easy way out, Owen. So I feel like that's a shot at you, because I'm sure we were talking how you take the easy way out of things.
Yeah,
Owen's my kind of operator. No easy way out. Owen, send a resume to thetowinglife@gmail.com. And
Owen, you're going to be the new co-host here.
No. I meant personally for work. I mean, not about this
okay.
podcast. I don't need another coworker with 5 years experience that thinks he knows everything. I do enough of that for both of us. So yes, if you haven't seen them, the Night Beam Road Commander triangles, I've got the triangles as well.
Are those
as
the little triangles with the solar panel?
Yeah, the solar panel, they're rechargeable. Absolutely. They come in red and blue. Like, you can strobe them in alternate patterns and colors. We also have the ones that mount on the pylons. They are a great product. We are no way in shape or form endorsed by them. I just truly believe they are a good product moving forward in the safety of tow operators on the side of the road. So, that being said, on behalf of myself, my wonderful co-host, even though I give him a hard time week in and week out, Mr. TowManG, we thank you guys for coming out to check out another episode of the Towing Life podcast. We will be back again next week with the recovery of the month, as well as another good episode, good week full of content. So be sure to check it out. Don't forget to rate, review, and like. Can't wait to see you next time. Take care.
Toodles. Just one little tidbit about the pylons. Apparently, you can throw a pylon on top of a vehicle that's blocked in a live lane, but you can't put the pylon behind the vehicle that's blocked in the live lane.
That actually kind of makes sense because you can't put a pylon into a live lane.
Yeah. But you can put it on top of the car to, increase visibilities.
Not a terrible idea. There is TowManG's tips and tricks. You cannot legally put the pylon behind the car, but you can put it on the car.